Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Crypto News Podcast. We're buzzing as always. Getting into the month of December now. It's nice and cold if you're living in the northern part of the world. And if you're living down south, God bless you. You are very, very lucky. Today's guest is Frédéric Chesnais, who brings experience in investments, executive production, budgeting, financing, and management of intellectual property rights with a strong background in video games and interactive entertainment. He has successfully completed financial transactions in excess of 1 billion in this space. He started his career way back in the day as a CPA and financial consultant, moved into investment banking, and was also part of the management team at Atari Group, one of the biggest game behemoths in this space. And he also brought the Atari Group out of bankruptcy and became the CEO and main shareholder, engineering an absolutely incredible turnaround of a business which was in dire straits. Present day, he is running up the team at AlphaVerse, a Metaverse hub that will feature neighborhoods focusing on a mix of interests, including video games, entertainment, art, and sports. Without further ado, I'm very pleased to welcome Frédéric Chesnais to the Crypto News Podcast. Fred, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What are you smiling for? What did I say that made you laugh?
Good. I always like to, let's start and let's do it. So
yeah.
I like to be here.
Is the French accent okay?
Yeah, it's okay.
I'm getting there. I gotta get my reps back in again. Quite the bio. And for those at home, I'm sure one name in particular sounded very familiar, and that is Atari, who is the massive company behind a multitude of AAA rated games. Can you tell me some stories from your time at the Atari Group and what you and your team did to turn it around and bring it out of bankruptcy?
It's very funny because, it's true that my background sounds more like, someone coming from the investment side and less from a programming or computing background, right? And it's true. The reality is that, I've always loved video games. And I knew I was not Spielberg, so I knew I was not the guy who was going to be able to create the product, so to say. But at the same time, I knew exactly, where to find the money, how to organize the deals, and I think I had a good sense of where the market would go. So this is why, 25 years later, I'm still here. But it's, Atari has always been a passion of mine, so I bought it. I was part of a team first. We bought it in 2000 from Hasbro. And it was losing like a lot of money, $250, $300 million a year. And we renamed our company. We sold it in 2007. And then in 2012, and I'm going to come to the story, in 2012, the hedge fund which had bought the company from us basically 5 years ago. They called me and they said, look, do you want to come back? Because we not only we've put Atari into bankruptcy, but we, the fund, we're also going into liquidation. So at the time, I had basically a week to make a decision. I knew I wanted to make the investment. So I did it. And it was just like a very desperate situation because we had basically no revenue, like 1 million euros, and we had 35 million euros of debt. So it was a pretty desperate situation. And at the time, what was very funny is that it took me a week basically to make the deal, because I would enter the data room and I had signed all the contracts 5 years earlier, so I knew all the contracts. We had basically bought a studio, which they had sold. So during 5 years, this is what they had done. But the rest, it was basically what I had put in place 5, 6, 10 years ago with the team. So it went very, very quickly. And I knew I wanted to make the deal. The most frightening part of it was in the auction process, because Atari was in bankruptcy. So there was an auction process, and we had to basically fight to make sure that we would keep the brand, because you had a couple of people who were going to make some offers, on the assets. But crazy enough, no one made the offer on the Atari brand, so we were able to keep it. It was just quite stunning at the time. Now I think it's better. Of course, we turned it around. We created the Atari hotels. We created the Atari VCS. And I left last year because I wanted to do this virtual world. But I think it was a pretty good run for 8 years. So now there's a new team in place since 2020. So yeah, wish them all the best. And I'm just moving on, right? That's all.
How crazy is it building a AAA game? Like I didn't really know about this until getting into crypto a couple of years ago and working with some companies who are in the, I don't like the term play to earn, but the Web3 gaming space. And a lot of these execs that I've been fortunate enough to work with have come from the Web2 space, similar to yourself. And I started doing my research and hearing stories from them about building a game costing hundreds of millions of dollars. And like on the consumer standpoint, like you would never know that, right? I would have never thought that to build a Call of Duty or a Grand Theft Auto would cost that much money. But when you're literally building a map and a world and characters and everything from scratch, not quite from scratch because there's previous stencils and whatnot, but it's absolute bananas. Like any stories about how much of a nuisance it is and how bananas it is building a AAA rated game?
Yeah, it's look, in fact, the most difficult part is the first game because if you have a hit, then you have no problem financing the second one, the sequel. And if basically it's a dog, you know that there is no sequel, so no one cares about it.
But so it's also such a risk, right? Because you really don't know if that first game is going to take off or not.
Yeah, so the way we do it is, and this is where online is very interesting. Back in the day, if you look at the end of the 90s and the early 2000s, even 2005, 6, 7, we were still selling boxes. So you would have to basically make the full movie, put it in the box, and then ship the box.
Right.
And it was impossible to fix the bugs. The point is, only 5%, I think these are the official stats or close to the official stats, only 5% ever finish a game, right? So you have to finish basically the production, you have to finish the movie, but you know that only 5% of your audience is going to watch the end, right? So the way, that was a big risk because you had to develop the game, manufacture, make the marketing campaign, prepare everything, and then you would know, right, if the game would sell. Today it has changed a lot, especially with mobile and on the online, so to say, possibilities. You can basically release a game with less levels. I'm not saying it's a bad game or it's a game that is all finished. You just don't need to finish the full game before you can release it. You can also, with the private betas, public betas, you can also get a good sense of where you're going. And you know that if no one likes it, it's easier and it's better to kill the game right now, which is very difficult to do.
You can sort of test product market fit, whereas in the old days you couldn't. Yeah.
But most people don't know how to kill a game because it's very difficult. Not from first you lose money. You're like, shoot, I really have lost all this money. Second, it's also a pride. So we say a fight, meaning, no, it's impossible. I'm right, they are wrong. And it's, you can see it. You can see people, they never want to stop because they think it's easier to try to finish the game and try to launch in and hoping for a miracle, right? It's Hail Mary in American football. No, it's true. But then it doesn't exist. Trust me, if after 1 test, 2 tests, 5 tests, people are saying that the game doesn't work or it's not a good game, it's not going to change. So it's a very courageous decision. You need to be able to kill the game. It's a tough decision.
And let's buzz on this topic for a bit more here. Sort of some of the biggest changes that have happened to the gaming industry, post 2000 kind of thing. I know Facebook and the launch of Facebook and Farmville and other games that were available on that platform. That was a huge change because the distribution model, right? Before it was like, well, all right, well, how do you find people? Now it's like, well, if you launch on Facebook, you have, I don't know, back in the day, and we'll call it the late, early 2000s, 2005 to 2012 kind of thing. You had a couple billion people, not like today, 3.5 or 4 billion, however many on Facebook, but you still had a potential market of a couple billion, which is absolutely massive, where in the old days it wasn't, right? You're shipping to places like EB Games, which is now GameStop and stuff like that, and Future Shop, Best Buy, and hope to get lucky. Not lucky, but hope that a lot of people will purchase your game. And then you have the mobile game run of 2010 to still present day, where you just need to have it on either the App Store or Google Play. And now we have this new shift, which is going to Web3, where, again, very difficult to onboard because of the nuances of crypto. But what sort of similarities do you see between the last two big shifts in the gaming industry and the current one that we hope to see with Web3? Are there any really easy telltales that are just so front of mind and so low-hanging fruitish?
At the end of the day, it's a question of experience, right? If your game is good, no matter what wave you're in, you're just going to make it, right? So I think the issue I see with the current wave, 3.0, is for me, I've seen a lot of games where basically the whole point is to issue a token, sell the token, and then really forget the game, right? And forget to deliver the game and forget to develop the game. It's I've seen it, more than often. So as part of the new company, we also invest in some games. So we have a small team looking at investments in potential games. And more than enough, we're in a situation where we say, look, we don't think you need a token in this game. Why? Why do you think you need blockchain, not even the token? And there's no good answer to these questions, or these two questions, right? And then you realize that the only purpose of the team is to basically have a token, sell it to a bunch of investors, and then, see where the game will go, right? So I think if you want to invest in, for those of you listening, if you want to invest in Web 3.0, first, there are two questions. It's, apart from the experience, is, do you really need blockchain? And do you really need a token? Because if you don't need blockchain, if you don't need a token, then just stay, with the regular games. Because at the end of the day, it's not going to work, right? If you're on blockchain, it's because you really need blockchain to deliver something unique, something good for your audience. And if you need a token, just, really, I know it's always, hey, let's issue 1 billion tokens. I'm going to take 5 million for me. And if the price of the token goes to 1, I'm a millionaire, right? This is what everyone used to think. And I think this is wrong.
It's all financial. Everything's financial incentives. At least it has been for the last year and a half. And I think people are finally starting to realize that play to earn is a bit of a hoax, right? The purpose of games have always been to pass time, to have fun, to enjoy spending online time with your friends. It's never been a financial incentive. And I don't think that will ever change. If we can get to a point where it's hey, play this super fun blockchain game, but also have the potential to earn, I think that's where the market needs to go. Not, you will earn. It's, you can have fun and perhaps earn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you see it. Look, it's except poker. I'm not talking casino games, right? But I think it's clear, and you see it coming when you I remember seeing some decks, and I'm like, you don't need blockchain, you don't need a token, you can just have a very fun game. And by the way, your experience is so. But I think so far I've seen great games. I'm not going to mention any game, but I've seen great games on Web 3.0 because you can clearly see that blockchain is used for a purpose and there's not always a token. So I've seen great games, but at the same time, and this is what people remember. You see too many cases where it's a token just because it's a token to try to bring it to the moon. And I think it's always backfires.
What needs to change for Web3 gaming? What do we got to do to onboard, the next couple million people? Everyone's talking about it. Everyone wants to do it. What needs to change? Or is it just a matter of time?
So I don't know exactly, but what we're doing, so I don't have a general answer to the general question, but what we're doing, in fact, we're using Unity. So Unity or Unreal is the same, right? It's a general, it's a public, with an engine that is all over the place. And what we're just doing, we're offering an experience where you don't need cryptos or you don't need a crypto wallet to join. It's really a free-to-play game. It's a free-to-play world. When you join the world, you can as much as possible, or we offer whenever possible, we offer the option to pay in fiat. Of course, if you resell an NFT, I'm not going to tell you that you can be paid in fiat, right? But I believe that there are many ways where, at least for the first transactions, you can sell tokens against, fiat, and then players can use the token or the tokens they've just purchased to buy NFTs. But even sometimes you don't need NFTs, right? You can just deliver the game asset, and you keep the NFT for the players. And so we're trying to do that. We're trying to offer, whenever possible, an experience in fiat for the microtransactions. But at the core, our world is open, and you don't need crypto to join and to enjoy the experience. We know that only 1.5, 2% of the players are paying. So the most important is to have an open world, free to play, and then anyone can join, can enjoy the experience. And after that, you start making microtransactions. But the ratio is 1%, 1.5, 2%. I was the executive producer on Roller Coaster Tycoon Touch, on Roller Coaster Tycoon Online for many years. So we know the ratios. And no, it's not like 5%. We were at 1.5 or 1.5.
And that's total. So of the total chunk of users who play the game, 99% are free to play and will never purchase anything in game. And then that 1%. So that 1% is accountable for all the revenue for said game.
Yeah.
Wow. That's insane.
No, it's on hyper casual games, it's even lower. But that's why you just have to be careful, right?
So what do you do to find
on the other hand, these guys pay, meaning they're not going to give you $1, right? If you are a paying user, me, it's clear. When I play some games, and there are games where I will never pay, never. But there are other games where I pay, and when I pay, $25, $30 a month because I like it.
That's absolutely insane. And these 1% of users, like when you find this whale per se, who is, your black swan, or obviously there's, hundreds or thousands of them, I guess in some cases, maybe millions. But when you find these hundreds or thousands of people, the 1% of users who are accounting for all revenue, what do you do to sort of give them some VIP experience? Like, how do you get more out of them? How do you keep them? How do you make sure they don't churn?
Yeah, it really depends on the game. For me, the most important is the number of friends you have in a game. Because the more friends you have, the least likely you are to leave the game, right?
Smart.
If you have invested a lot in your avatar and your character, and you already have like 100 friends in the game, you're not going to quit. So it's more important to keep building this experience, to keep entertaining this experience.
So when you're creating a game, it's paramount to have some type of game loop that includes being able to have friends, whether it's onboarding friends or just keeping them, leaderboards, so on and so forth, to make sure that they don't leave the game. I would have never thought that was such a catalyst for growth and that was so important.
No, it is. It's super important. Super important.
And what other under the table aspects or stats do you have that are incredibly surprising? Like you just gave me two, where 1% of users account for all revenue in game. That surprised me. And of course, friends in the game equals not leaving the game. Those are two that really surprised me. Do you have any others that, someone on the outside wouldn't find so obvious?
Yeah, let me give you another one. For instance, today, when you release a game, if you spend, let's say, 100 to make the first game, the first release, you're going to have to spend 1,000 down the road, meaning it's going to cost you 100 to deliver a first playable. And then if you're successful, you're just going to keep spending more and more and more and more money. So it's super important to know exactly, your business model, and to know these numbers, because it's not a hit and run, right, system. It's back in the day, it was hit and run, meaning take a game, put it on the shelves, make sure that there are not too many bugs, and hope for the best. Right. Here it's different. Today you're just basically starting. Everything starts when you ship the game. Back in the day, everything hands. When you would ship the game. So today is very different. You ship, you start. You on Apple, Google most of the time. And I think this is, if your game is very successful, you just have to be ready, to have a long development schedule with a lot of content to be released. So you need to have a plan, at least for the first 6 months post your initial release. Otherwise, your users will just, okay, what's new, right? What's new in this game? So it's better most of the time if you have a game, it's better to keep some content right away, not ship it with the initial release and then release it 1 week, 1 month, 2 months later, so everyone understands that there's something, and then you just have to keep building and building and building.
Keep delivering. Another thing that I find very interesting about today's gaming, and this is applicable for literally every company in every industry, the importance of becoming a media company. And I think I first really understood this, I want to say 3-4 years ago, when A16Z, Andreessen Horowitz, one of the biggest VCs, if not the biggest VC in the world, built out their own media arm. And when you have a company who literally prints money, hand over fist, creating a media arm, that's powerful. That says something. And now every single company is also creating media. We can get into AlphaVerse, for example, but any just AAA rated game, any successful game, whether it's mobile or desktop, they're still doing, media campaigns that almost have nothing to do with the game, or are creating new media that has very little to do with the game, just because we live in an attention economy and you need to keep your community involved. You need to keep giving them those dopamine hits. That's a change that, is pretty crazy as well. Like, you even look at the Call of Duty releases now, they have these 2.5 minute videos that must have cost, $10 million to make, and they have famous movie stars and athletes in them as well. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, there's a convergence between video games, movies, basically entertainment or digital entertainment. Yeah, it's true. But games are even bigger today than movies, because
I know, it's insane.
Movies, you can't really,
you can only do it once. Right? Yeah, you watch a movie once, maybe twice. If you love it 10 times, a game you can play for 2 hours a day every single day.
Yeah, and from a business standpoint, it's a very difficult business model, because you have to basically carry the investment all the way to the end,
right?
And when you release it and you hope for the best, I remember there was one movie that was killed 4-6 months ago, and it shocked the industry, because they said, look, we have the movie, it's ready to go, it's not good enough, we're just not releasing it. It's an incredibly tough decision to make.
Crazy. Folks, we're going to take a quick break, and we got to talk about Prime XBT. And when we get back, we are going to get into AlphaVerse. But before then, got to give a huge shout out to Prime XBT. Been using these guys for a hot minute, as they offer a robust trading system for both beginners and professional traders. It doesn't matter if you're a rookie or a vet, you can easily design and customize your layouts and widgets to best fit your trading style. Prime XBT is also running an exclusive promo for listeners of the Crypto News podcast. You receive 50%, that is 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. The promo code is CryptoNews50 to receive 50% of your deposit credited to your trading account. And now back to the show with Fred. So, AlphaVerse, you guys are moving and grooving, tearing it up, building a whole lot of stuff. Before we get into it, give me the elevator pitch, and then we'll get into some of the nitty-gritty stuff.
Look, AlphaVerse is a virtual world. It's an open world, and our goal is to connect as many digital worlds as possible, whether they have crypto in there, no crypto. We are just connecting as many worlds as possible, right? So and why? Because I didn't want to make a bet on building one type of game, because you never know what's going to work and what's not going to work, right? So what we did was basically to create a central place, a hub, which is a virtual world, which is a metaverse. And from this, it's built under Unity. And from this hub, you can connect and you can join as many worlds as possible. So you can go to an island with roller coaster games. You can go to another island about music. You can go to another island about photo, about art. There's going to be one about football, soccer. So it's really, from that central place, you can join as many worlds as possible. And second, not only we can connect our own worlds, but we can also connect third-party worlds, right? Worlds that have been developed and that are operated by third parties. And from these worlds, when you join them, it's very, it's basically seamless, right? Seamless. You don't need to recreate a new account. It's as part of the same world, but we do not operate these worlds, right? We are just pushing our own world, and then we're connecting other worlds. So that's what we're doing. It's a universe of universes. That's why it's called AlphaVerse. And our ambition is to be, whenever you want to know what's going on, right, in the worlds of digital worlds or metaverses, you can just go to AlphaVerse, and then from there you'll be able to, first you'll get the news, you'll be able to play, to meet people, and then you'll be able to connect other worlds. So that's what we're doing.
And on the user side of things, if a new user wants to join, like what do you need? What's the barrier to entry?
So what we're doing is we're going theme by theme, right? So we have music. So we know we're getting a lot of users from music. I'm going to have football, European football, soccer. So we're going to have a lot of players here. It's an open world, so you can just download the client and you can join. You don't need to own crypto. You don't need to have a crypto wallet. And this is what we are doing to get the users. We are going theme by theme. We're looking at big, verticals. And from there, I think it's easier for us, to build this way. Also to connect different worlds, it's easier for us because then I can just build 5 worlds. At the same time, I connect 5 worlds. This is for one given month, and then I'm going to keep doing it the same. But the way we work is that we have the central place. We connect our own worlds. We connect worlds that are made by third parties, but it's not because one world is late that it's going just to jeopardize everything, right? We can, instead of connecting 5 worlds, we're going to connect 4 worlds. We're much more nimble, right, by doing it this way. And then, it's a long-term play, so we don't have the pressure to say, okay, we're going to launch everything by that day. I remember when I released Roller Coaster Tycoon Touch in 2017, right? 5 years later, the game is still running, and we've added so much content. So it takes time. You just do it step by step.
So just a slow process, steady wins the race. Just like you said, keep shipping, keep delivering, keep giving new stuff and new things to do for the users, and sort of the rest takes care of itself.
Exactly.
And you guys are also, from my research that I've done, you are, part of the ethos of a Web2 game that's built on Web3 tech. Very Web2 play and feel, but behind the machine, you'll see a Web3 motor.
Yeah. It's, at the end of the day, a metaverse is only a video game world or virtual world with a blockchain layer on top of it, right? So back to what we were saying earlier, just make it simple. Make sure that you first think about the experience, and you really think about, okay, do I really need to add blockchain here? Do I really need to have a token? And some of these worlds, we are just going to have, of course, the blockchain, but we're just going to be a token, a standard token, right? It's not even sure that we're going to have a token in each, a specific token in each and every world. It's just going to be a general token. It's called Crystal. We have created only 600 million of it. And I think this is just going to be sufficient.
I love that. You guys have also partnered with some massive people in this space. You're going to showcase some music of David Guetta, and you also announced a deal with Chai Madu, or rather the Chai Madu estate. And he was one of the best known photographers of hip hop artists in the 90s. I didn't know who he was until I did research for the show. Pretty darn cool partnership. How'd you get those guys in bed, and what do you plan to do with them?
Well, first I knew them, so it's always easier. But having said that, you need to convince them that they are not making a mistake and by joining the project, right?
Yeah.
So I think what brought them to us is, in this world, in AlphaVerse, you can stream content, right? Meaning, as long as you have the content on Twitch or YouTube, you can stream it into our world. What I mean by this is, you take a big place, you take an arena, you take a house, you take a flat, whatever your goal is or your ambition is, and then in these places you are going to find some video players, some huge TV sets, And on this TV set, you can stream your content. So let's assume that you are an upcoming, musician. You want to, create an audience. You want to make sure that everyone knows what you are doing. You even want to raise more money to finance your big album. So what you do, you come to AlphaVerse, you take one of these houses, you can upload your logo on the outside, you can upload your name on the outside, and on the inside, you can organize your house so you can have billboards, you can stream your content, which is already on YouTube. So it's not like an additional work to do. And then players will come, visitors will come. If they like it, then it's your decision, it's your job to have a special presentation or billboard dedicated to, the deal you want to make. And if you don't want to make a deal, it's fine. You can just, create your audience. You can sell them flats in the upper levels. You can create a VIP section. So it's a 3D, so to say, opportunity to create your audience. Why do you need blockchain? Because then you, as an artist, you can resell your house, or you can also create your own NFTs, your own collection of, with very specific content. So this is where the blockchain is very interesting. You can also, if you want, have a situation where you can have some mini games, play to earn. So this is, it's always very important to understand why you need the blockchain. And here we can definitely have a situation where blockchain is very helpful. If you are a photographer, for instance, especially in the Chimodu world, you'll be able to do the same. You organize your own expo. You can sell your own photos using NFTs. Blockchain is very, very important for that. And then after that, you can also, try to find people to help you for your next project. And it's always, it's all about the use cases. And we believe that if you can stream content, right, in a virtual world, it is a very powerful tool to help you bring an audience and to help you create your own community, because it's all about digital content. It's all about, videos. And this is what we're bringing. We're bringing this tool so it's easy for you to stream any content in this world. But when I say any content, this is why we want the content to be first on YouTube and Twitch, because they have some good filters. Otherwise, we don't want to end up with a lot of unwanted content, so to say, I would say,
well said.
In this world.
Fred, you brought up a great point about streaming. Man, that is something that I'm so interested in present day. And candidly, I wish I started a couple of years ago when it really started blowing up. But when you're building a game nowadays, you almost need to include the aspect of streamability. Is your game streamable? Because I feel like it's very tough to create a game that's going to, get so popular that the masses jump onto it without the streaming aspect. Like, it's become such a huge part of gaming. You have content creators who are streaming, 10, 12 hours a day, making millions of dollars a year, a couple $100,000 a month. And all they do is play video games on Twitch or YouTube. It's a lot. It's, I don't even know the word to describe it. It is beyond banana lands. It's crazy. Do you think we've sort of hit an apex point in the streaming world? Do you think it's still going to grow? Like, was this on your guys' radar when you were at Atari? Walk me through your thoughts on the whole streaming process.
Yeah, I think, it's back to, so it was because we knew it was going to happen, and it was not because we knew at the time that the business was very difficult, right? And it would take some time to make a living, right, out of this. So it was and it was not. But I think it's here to stay. It's much more fun to watch people playing video games, to have a story about the story. I think it's a lot of fun, and for me, it's here to stay. And it's much more fun to watch this type of content rather than sit on the couch and be offered like a random content. So this is why I think that it's difficult. I mean, the TV business is very difficult, as we all know. But we now we have the tools to build the content we want and to enjoy the content we want. We know, okay, we can go here, we can go there. You have Netflix, you have Twitch, you have all these platforms. And I think it's very difficult now to be in the TV business.
Yeah, well said. Fred, what a treat. I know we're getting a little tight for time here. Let's jump into the Hot Take Factory. It's a segment we always do on the show. Give me a couple hot takes. Can be anything, can be politics, sports, food, geo, you name it. Doesn't have to be crypto or gaming related, but give me a couple Fred hot takes that only you believe in and something that most people do not.
Oh, no, I love space, meaning exploration. It's not about Mars or, because one guy was already taking care of that. But for me, it's, it has always amazed me, how big and, space is. So I'm really interested by that. I look at, the time it takes to go from point A to point B, look at asteroids, mining of asteroids. I think it's, this is the next kind of, milestone, next big objective for us. Mars is one thing. I think Moon is more important initially because of the water on the moon, right? But, I think it's incredible, the pace of development and the pace of progress in general, right? You have a lot of people suffering on Earth. Don't get me wrong, I get that. I've been all over the place in Africa, so I've seen my share. But I think at the same time, you need a lot of effort and a lot of progress to be made. And for me, I when I have a few moments from time to time, I watch some videos on space exploration, and I always enjoy that.
Would you go? Would you get on that on the Virgin ship or the Jeff Bezos penis-looking ship and go to space?
No, because it's not really for me. I'm more interested in the project. For instance, if I could, once I've have more time, do a kind of mining operation on asteroids, just not really for the money, but just to prove that it can be done, right? I've had a lot of conversations and I've looked at some business cases on that. It's very interesting. It's, this is where you have a lot of material. This is, for me, also a great way to fight against climate change because you can grab a lot of resources in space that you don't have to mine, on Earth. The last 20 years have been, for me, extremely important. When you look at the progress, where I think if you really look at what has happened, over the last 20 years, now you launch a product and 5 years later, the product can be just dead. It can be a hit and then it's dead because there's something new that is basically replacing the product. Like in the 90s, it was the fax machine. I mean, fax were great. I remember using some fax machines, but now who uses a fax, right? It's dead. If you look at the smartphones, right? Today, the smartphones we have today are more powerful than the laptops that we had, in 2005, 2007? Yeah. It's basically, the analysis. So you can have a product that is being launched, and then 4 or 5 years later, it's going to become obsolete. So the lifespan of a new product today is shorter, right? To almost the minimum, and you can still make money in 5 years, but after that, you can be replaced. That's quite insane. Look, Facebook today. Facebook still has a lot of people, but now you have a lot of young users who are saying, no, I don't want Facebook. I want something else. So my point is, back in the day, it would take us 25 years to go from point A to point B. Today, maybe it's going to take us 5 years to go from point A to point B. So what it means for you as an individual is that back in the day, you could spend 25 years doing pretty much the same thing. So this is why people would not change jobs, right? Because you could enter at 25 and then leave at 50. The tech would still be the same and maybe would be replaced by somebody else, right? By something else. But today, it means that you have to be ready and prepared and you have to be trained. And this is why you have, knowledge is just critical, right? But this is why today, if you believe in, even if you say Fred is completely wrong, this is not 5 years, this is 7 years. My point is, it means that during your professional life, you will have to change at least 3 to 4 times
Yeah, be ready to adapt.
Your job, because the technology is going to change. And this is for me amazing. I remember my aunt, she started a job, and even my mom, she started a job. She was in kind of programming back in the day, but there was a little evolution. She saw the first computers arrive and all these things, but she did not really change jobs, right? But today you have to be, everyone listening, you have to be ready to change job, to have like at least a very, very deep evolution every 5 to 7 years. And this is going to be disturbing because are you trained? Do you have the knowledge? Are you ready to move? Are you ready to move not only you, but also your family? That's just the reality.
Oh, it's crazy. Well said. Well said, Fred. Fred, this is a treat, man. Appreciate you coming on. Excited for round 2. How I know you were in Qatar and you saw your home country, France, play. Who's winning the World Cup?
We'll see. I think, the most important is to go to the semifinals. After that, it's everyone's game. You will see. I'm here because I'm working with a lot of football clubs, and we are working on the virtual worlds for football clubs. So it should be announced pretty soon. Streaming content, creating your communities,
right.
Creating virtual stadium. But it's was pretty cool. So we'll see for the World Cup. As long as France makes it to the semifinal, after that.
So you just got to have a kick at the can. Fred, love it, man. Appreciate you coming on. Where can our listeners find you and AlphaVerse online and on socials?
Thank you so much. AlphaVerse.com. And on Twitter, it's AlphaVerse Game. And same on Instagram, AlphaVerse Game.
Amazing. Folks, what an episode with Fred from AlphaVerse, dropping knowledge bombs left, right, and center. We absolutely love to see it. If you enjoyed this one, and I hope you did, please do subscribe. It would mean the world to my team and I. Speaking of the team, love you guys, and to our listeners, thank you, as always, for listening. Keep on staying healthy, wealthy, and happy, and keep on growing those bags. Bye for now, and we'll talk soon.